Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo, alongside you guys. A little bit of a live recording right after Milan defeat Lecce in Coppa Italia. Won't be commenting on the Udinese match. I had a video uploaded yesterday, so you guys can go and check that out. Check out my thoughts on that. Santangelo's Twitter is filled with Udinese comments, so if you wanted to get some of that in there, go for it. But since there are multiple matches this week, we have a guest in the second half portion of this podcast. So stick around for that. This first half will strictly be regarding Milan beating Lecce today in Coppa Italia. So we'll hop right into that, Mr. Santangelo.
Sure.
2 straight matches where Milan are in cruise control from minute 1 to minute 90. 6 goals scored, 0 conceded. 5 matches this season in which Milan have yet to concede a goal, or have not conceded a goal. The only match in which they did concede was against Cremonese. So really great start to the season for Milan in terms of structure and defense. So we'll just hop right into it, man. There's a bit of rotation within this one. We see Modric sit down. Fofana does not start in this. Same defense. Mike Maignan returns, which was a little bit of a surprise considering some things, but Allegri did confirm that in press conferences. We see Nkunku and Jimenez start up top together. Davide Bartesaghi comes in on the left center back side. Samuel Ricci finally gets his first start at San Siro, or I believe he did. Did they play Bari at San Siro? So that would probably be a second start then. Either way, nice to see with that. So your initial thoughts on the rotation within this one? Did you like everything that you saw regarding that before we head into this performance here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some good rotations in there, right? You want to start to kind of ramp up Nkunku. I know Allegri mentioned a couple weeks ago that he really only had 25 to 30 minutes in his legs due to the fact that he didn't really train with Chelsea upon arrival. And we've seen a couple appearances from him, and you've seen like glimpses of what he can bring. Obviously, he had a couple penalty nods that didn't go his way. And when I say a couple, it happened back to back that he didn't get in that one game. Obviously, he had another one here today as well. So the fact that we were able to see him in a not a meaningless game, that's the wrong word, but a game that doesn't feel as
low pressure.
Low pressure, because I think, you look at the opposition, you look how Milan are playing. You expected, whether they played Nkunku or not, that they were going to handle this game. Of course, we've seen in recent years where Milan struggle in the Coppa Italia. I know the game against Torino a couple years ago with the Ketelare starting and not playing well kind of like creeps back into my mind. But more or less, the performances have been very good. It was a right time to rotate. And Landucci, with the help of Allegri, of course, obviously he was in the stands for this one. Proper rotation. I liked what I saw from Nkunku. He gave us almost 60 minutes or so. This was also the great opportunity for Santi to you'll have that opposition where he can maybe break out of his funk and get a goal. He had a couple chances that he probably should have buried. He probably could have had a hat trick in this one, if we're being honest. But the fact that he got one, he got on the score sheet, helped.
Should have had an assist too, to be fair.
He had a really good ball in as well for I think I forgot who that.
Rabiot missed the chance.
Rabiot, yeah. Well, it was saved. It was a good save, but
I consider a miss when he hit right at the keeper.
Top to bottom, I thought this was fine. I mean, again, I didn't expect a bad performance. I didn't expect it to be a bludgeoning, for the simple fact that you have rotation. 2, you're also still struggling to convert the amount of chances that we do have. Now, when you take off Pulisic, who's been one of our fine players in the attacking phase, it's only natural that you feel like something was going to be a little bit off in this game, or the fact that Milan didn't really need to go into that next gear. They can kind of ride the brake a little bit, coast, didn't have to go foot on the gas. And you saw that, right? They could have had 6 goals in this one. 3-0, they move on. Nothing of note that comes to mind as far as like criticisms. I think, obviously you want to finish more chances, but you move on. You don't exert enough to the point where it comes to the starters feel like they're a detriment going into that Napoli game, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, I would say that I don't even want to single Santi out here, even if he missed a couple chances, because the poor finishing was across the board tonight. I thought Rabiot missed a couple. They hit the post 4 separate times. Nkunku's finish was poor on I believe it was a far post pass to him. There were multiple players, and again, some people kind of like trying to cite and mention like, oh, Santi's finish, even when he scored, it did. Doesn't matter, guys. Ball went in the back of the net. I'm not going to be here to criticize a guy that needs more motivation. I thought he had a solid shift. Hopefully, mentally that does something for him. As far as goal scoring goes, it's pretty bad. Bonetti even mentioned 7 big chances missed within Serie A for him. But listen, he got the goal. That's all that matters to me. Milan win because of that. So yeah, I just want to kind of like talk about Santi and Nkunku scoring here. Listen, Santi with a good finish. I thought the setup within this goal, with this first goal, was great. Rabiot to Bartesaghi, who I want to talk about a little bit at length in a moment here, was just great. It's just great football. The build-up, everyone just seems so fluid. Even Fabio from Long Island, our good friend, who's been on the podcast before for Milan Coast to Coast, he mentioned in spaces, everybody still looked fluid despite the changes within the lineup. You saw Nkunku kind of seems to be assimilating well within the squad. Rabiot he's just such a staple. He really is going to be such a massive integral piece for this squad here. So for me, I love to see that link up there. Nkunku, I mean, the ball by Salamakers that entire goal was great. Salamakers perfectly lofts that, and it's in swinging on the far post for Nkunku to get that volley in. That was just beautiful. I don't really care how many players Lecce have on the pitch, who they're starting. It's just perfect execution. And it was great for them to get that out in the second half immediately after, listen, I wasn't ever fearful of them drawing this or like conceding, but just to get multiple goals felt really good. Because do you know what their XG was for this one? I'm not sure I've ever seen that high of an XG.
I think it was like 4.8 or something.
4.33, which is really goddamn high. 24 total shots, 7 were on target. I thought this was a complete performance by Milan. I understand they were up a man for 70 odd minutes. That doesn't matter to me because at the end of this, they're doing what they need to do. That's it. Yeah. Break it down to brass tacks. Milan come in, 2 inferior sides in the past couple of matches, 6 goals scored, 0 conceded. Your thoughts on these two playing off of each other? I thought Nkunku made great runs. He could have had a penalty drawn, and then he obviously drew the red card. So his running and timing in spaces has been impressive.
And that's what you want to look at, right? And I think that, when you look at all these performances that Milan have had so far, and you look at the fact that Milan have had a lot of new players get integrated within the team, you want to see a lot of those things, right? Are Milan creating chances, right? And I think they're absolutely doing that. You mentioned the expected goals, right? But you also look at the fact that despite not having a striker that is converting and that is in fine form, you mentioned the number, 7 big chances missed, at least, including Serie A competition as well. They don't have Rafa back. Nkunku is basically giving you, prior to this game, brief cameos, and Pulisic was banged up coming off the bench. You made the impact last game. You're still scoring quite a few goals and you're creating a ton of chances. The prospects of what this team could be offensively, if it's at its fullest potential and fullest form, again, all ifs, but I think there is a lot of quality within this group that at least kind of warrants that hope, right? That we're eventually at some point this year, Milan are going to reach a position where, Leao is in fine form. We know what he can do. And the fact that Milan are doing this and we haven't even seen him this entire season is very exciting
encouraging,
to me. Yeah. Because I think it brings a whole nother dynamic to this attack. And I think on the Santi thing, what kind of still gives me hope that he's eventually going to break out of this is he gets into really good positions.
A lot of the time.
It's one thing if a striker doesn't really do much else, or he's not in the right positions and you don't even hear his name. If he's not going to score, I almost rather at least hear his name. To your point, right? The great pass into Rabiot, who didn't get the goal, he was saved. Yeah. That's a really good pass.
Yeah.
And that's what you really want in a striker, right? Who can get the ball, link play, make those passes into dangerous areas. So I think that Santi, in time, I'm hoping that the goal today, again, people are making light of it. He almost missed it, right? I agree with you. It went in the back of the net. Sometimes that's all you need to do as a striker. You need to see the ball roll into the back of the net. You don't care how it happens. People are not going to look back on this performance, in a year, 6 months even, and say, oh, yeah, he almost missed that one, didn't he? I mean, unless you're a psycho and you're going to analyze everything. So that's what we're hoping for. You saw a lot of positives from Nkunku in this game, right? Yes, he had the chance that missed off the crossbar. Probably should have converted that one, but that's a great finish. I think that, fitness or not, that's a fantastic finish from Nkunku.
Yeah.
Fantastic finish. Far post, volley, great crossing from Alexis Saelemaekers. So this is exactly where you want to be from Milan perspective. They're not doing everything extremely well as far as, what they could do in the offensive phase. But I think the prospects of what Milan can be in this area when they are going is very exciting to me.
Yeah, I agree. And, he's slowly coming back from fitness regarding Nkunku. So to just see that for him, he looks like he's moving well. It's a slow buildup and integration into playing more. And then I think we'll see a significant appearance against Napoli. But yeah, these two wingbacks again. I mean, Saelemaekers is he's incredible so far. Just really, truly one of the best wingbacks in Italy. He's literally launched himself into these conversations of how well he can really carry a side within a match. I mean, in 2 instances within the first 10 minutes, I believe, 20 minutes, where he sends in a great ball after a link-up play. The first one was to Santi within minute 2, I think. It was tough for Santi to get a first touch on that, but to just have that pass angled in there for him. Saelemaekers could have had a quad hat trick. A quad amount of assists, like 4 assists in this one.
Yeah.
He was robbed of one.
His
obviously,
deliveries.
The Nkunku red card. I mean, just really, really good performance from him. And then Bartesaghi for me, as I was mentioning on the TikTok and other places. This is just every single time you see a young player be reintegrated into the 11 or given another opportunity after some time, you hope to see improvement. This guy, every single time, you just see a better and better player. I think this position for him specifically in this formation fits him better. He's not necessarily the best of athletes to play in a back four as a left back, and he's not overwhelming at this point in his career physically to be a center back in a back four. I think this is a sweet spot for him. We saw good technical ability on the ball, and I was really satisfied with Bartesaghi today. And obviously, Saelemaekers goes without saying what he's done so far this year. Just him and Modric have been the best players. But, I mean, the guy who got subbed on after, who we'll talk about, probably might have something to say about that. But, again, these two wingbacks, I was very happy with this.
Me too. I mean, I think this is matches like this. I mean, just removing Saelemaekers because he's been getting his flowers, and rightfully so. He's been, to your point, next to Modric, Milan's best player this year, in my opinion, at least from a consistency standpoint. Also, he's producing. The crosses are crisp. The delivery is there. He's finding the right guys in the box. He's slowing the game down when he needs to. On the assist that he gave to Modric a couple games ago, where he's not rushing. He doesn't seem like he's flustered. And I think that has come with maturity. That has come with experience and development, right? Man, 2 years away from the club. You see how clearly a more improved, more refined player he is. And it's interesting because this guy isn't very young, but he's not old. He's 26. He's been here for 5 years? So Milan, or at least in Serie A. So Milan have a player that at 26, you can do a little bit of everything with. He can play both sides. He's a sound player, technically. He's a smart player. He knows what to do with the ball. He's going to work. And this is what makes it feel so refreshing as a Milan fan, more than anything, is a player that was completely written off by many. I'll admit it, even including myself, because I thought that when he did go out on loan, of course, my dogs are barking in the background.
That's okay. Just keep going. Doesn't matter.
But when he is written off by many people, comes back. And what was the big talking point this summer, Martino, when we left the market done, was I don't think we did enough in the fullback or the wingback department. We got a lot of young and experienced players, and Saelemaekers comes in and he gives you assurances, right, immediately in this position. That's massive. An in-house solution. So as I said in previous episodes, for people that were calling for him to be sold, sometimes you got to just roll with the coach, and if the coach likes the player, you got to
pretty much every coach likes
judgment's right. And that's what I always say, because Milan could have sold him. They probably could have got a good amount of money. And if you're going to make the argument in other players' cases, Martino, when it comes to, okay, we got 60, 70 million for Tijani and Tonali. Someone got money somewhere, right? Where it's like, okay, we're not seeing it. Then you can almost make the same case with Salamakers, because if we sold him and he wound up being a very, very good player for a team like Roma or elsewhere, people would have said, why did we sell him? Like 20 million. What did we get with that 20 million? So there's something to be said also about a player that has won a Scudetto here. He knows what it takes to win at Milan. His role has changed since that Scudetto year. But man, make no mistake about it, this is a much more improved player. And again, shout out to Bartasaghi as well, because these are the types of matches you want to be able to integrate a young player like him. Stress-free. It's not going to be a tension-packed game where you're going to ask him to do a lot. It's not going to be extending him in physically. He looked very calm on the ball. He got forward. He was defending back. These are the types of performances that give you some sort of confidence that, okay, you know what, maybe we didn't need to go and drastically overspend in the market. When we have these guys and we have a coach that can coach up players, this is what you see in Salamakers and what you see in guys like Bartasaghi. And we didn't even mention Estupinian, who's been very good too recently.
Yes. Bartasaghi, again, just 19 years of age. 19. It's not easy. It's not easy. There's a lot of pressure, high pressure situation. Opportunities are limited. I think this is a really good chance for him to thrive this season in a role like this in a formation that caters to him. And speaking of thriving, I am kind of at the point where I'm just at a loss for words. Like Christian Pulisic is normalizing being good at Milan, like really good. Like the level of production here to finish on this ability, on this cross by Fofana. So he makes it look easy. That was incredibly difficult. Comes on, this is within 3 minutes of his appearance, and he scores a goal. 6 goal contributions in 6 matches for Pulisic this season. I believe he's only played 90 minutes in one entire match. He's been that good. And there was something today that I tweeted on our That Milan podcast Twitter account, so you guys can go and check it out. But since he is, and this is from Milan, the club itself, Matt, I'm not sure if you saw this. Since Christian Pulisic has arrived at Milan, he's the only player in Serie A to reach the milestone of 35 goals and 20 assists in all competitions. Complete player offensively. Yeah. We're talking about one of the best leagues in the world. We're talking about here. And he's doing that at this level. Not a striker like Thuram or Lautaro. Kvaratskhelia, yeah, he's been gone. He left in January last year. But we're talking about, 2 full seasons and just the start of a 3rd season here. I don't understand how people don't give this more praise. Like, this is really high-level stuff where and all the praise we give to Leão for playing well and how good of a player he is. He has plenty of criticism, don't get me wrong. But what Pulisic is doing at this level, he's entering the prime. I've said it on the video yesterday. This is the most important year of Christian Pulisic's career, and he's off to an incredible start so far. 5 goals, 1 assist, Matt. Like, this is stuff of sensation. This is a player entering his prime with a lot to prove.
When Milan purchased Christian Pulisic a couple summers ago, I think the expectation was that he would be a Robin to Leao's Batman. And I think fans would have been completely fine with that for the money. If they were able to get a secondary player that can, take some of the pressure, some of the offensive responsibility off Rafa, because that's what it felt like in that moment, that he was the sole contributor, the sole heart of the attack, and there was really nothing else that Milan could drum up if it wasn't coming through Rafa. And since then, Pulisic has basically emerged and has proven that he's a 1A, 1B with Rafa. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're starting to see even in the past season plus, where maybe Rafa wasn't having the type of performances that we needed and fans were calling for him to have to take his game to the next level. But this is a player that stepped up to the plate, raised his game, has proven to be healthy, but he's also producing like a top player. He's producing like he is the star at this club, the only star at this club, or the main man at this club. And I think it speaks to the mentality as well, because it's never easy to do that. We talk about the difficulties coming to play in Serie A, how humbling it could be for offensive players. Pulisic came to Milan with a bit of an injury concern or injury record, comes in plays a role on the right side versus playing where he traditionally plays his best as a left winger / maybe more number 10, produces his best years, and he's doing it in the Champions League games. He's doing it against Inter. He gets the Super Cup last year, and even with Rafa being out to start the season, you mentioned it, 5 goals and 1 assist. I mean, talk about rising to the occasion and producing and saying, guys, I got this. Because
I don't think a
Santi's
player
not scoring goals. You just brought in Nkunku. He's still not quite ready yet. Pulisic's coming in off the bench, getting great goals. He's starting, producing, creating chances, getting assists. I mean, he's literally doing everything you could possibly want from him. And they need to get this renewal done, and they need to get it done quicker. Otherwise, that price for his yearly wages is going to continue to go up, because this is a player just turned 27. He's really taken this role and responsibility at Milan in stride and is producing like a world-class player that we all knew he could be, but is showing that he actually is.
Yeah, no player in Italy has more goal contributions to start this season. I mean, you would think Kenan Yildiz had won every trophy possible by the way he's getting hyped up. And what a player, what a talent he is. But this is real. This is like legitimate production here. Yeah. I like this, and not to say Yildiz isn't, but it's just the example of like praise. The praise is not there. There's not enough. It's just quite like, I'm sorry. We have seen how many players over the years, and I cite the Rafael Leao stats on how his production compares to other Milan legends. I'm going to have to go digging here, but what Pulisic is like on pace for is one of the more prolific wingers in Milan's recent history, let alone their entire history. So for me, great job by him once again. Really, yeah.
These 2 seasons to start, right? So far, we obviously we're a batch of games into this year. This is from FootMob stats. Year 1, 51 appearances, 16 goals, 10 assists. 2024-2025, a second year, 50 appearances, 17 goals, 10 assists. I mean, over 100 appearances, double-digit goals and assists every year. In a less than functional team where they've gone through 3 coaches so far since he's been here.
Oh, well, yeah, it's his 4th coach now.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Right. Like, that's really impressive to me. And I think that people that have watched Serie A, I think by now, if you take your bias, your lenses off, and you look at this very objectively, Pulisic is getting the praise that he is deserving of. I think the conversation, and again, this is more so as a result of Milan not being in the Champions League and affording him this next opportunity or that stage, on a global scale, because this was a player that left Chelsea, and people said, he's leaving, he's going to the inferior league, he's not going. Goes to Milan, he's producing at this level. I think the conversation needs to be shifted back to where does he rank in his respective role across Europe. Look at the numbers, look at the consistent performances, look at the notable moments in the Champions League. Look at all the things stacked against him as far as the coaches, as I just mentioned. I think he deserves to be praised in a wider conversation when it comes to not just Italy, but European football based on the way he's playing and producing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's not difficult in this league. We know that almost every single time that we see someone basically take the pitch, it's just he hit the ground running immediately in that match against Bologna his first year. He hasn't really looked back. He had like some struggles this past spring, I would say, but that was due to fatigue and the amount of matches that he's playing, not overly rotating. He is just awesome. And this team is going to be adding Rafael Leao to this. I think because of how recent years have gone, people don't understand who's about to join. Like, are we all like aware of the level of player that they're going to be getting back in that? And we haven't even mentioned Yashadi as well. To me, I think if that defense grows enough, it has to. There's huge measuring sticks coming up, and we're going to talk to Dan Russo on the other part of this podcast, and then obviously the match against Juve. Those are huge measuring sticks for Milan. I would like to say Bologna was a decent sized measuring stick because they're a respectable side, But this is where we're going to see where Milan kind of sit. Because if they could build off of what happens in these next couple of Serie A matches, I don't know. They have the manager for it. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but game by game. You're man in the match for this. Tough one. There's multiple.
I probably would say Salamakers, man.
Okay.
I think that there's something to be said about him and the fact that he's able to give you the minutes. He's able to give you the same level of intensity and performances. Yeah. And there's also something to be said about not taking the opposition lightly. And the fact that, okay, fine, Milan were dominating, getting a ton of chances. They were up a player for basically the entire match, or 60 to 70 minutes. Consistent delivery, consistent work rate. I mean, when he leaves the pitch, like, you see he gave you everything. He didn't leave anything out there. And this is why he's become such an easy player to root for and support for performances like this, but also the way that he's come into this season and has basically proven that the decision to keep him was the correct one. Of all the names Milan have brought in, next to Luka Modric, it's been the guy that hasn't played for Milan, at least consistently. He played like one game last year in 2+ years. Says a lot about his growth, but it also says a lot about the man himself wanting to step back in this club, because we've seen it many times, Martino, where, okay, you want to loan me out a couple times? I don't want to go back. I want a new change. Sell me. Move on. He's come back. He's embraced every role. He's done everything that Max Allegri has asked for him to do. And then you can see why this was a prototypical Max Allegri type player when those two collided. And obviously we've seen why it's been so fruitful for both, because he's been a tremendous player for Milan.
I don't understand how they ever doubted this manager. Is beyond me. It's so fun. It's just honestly funny. It just is. Is.
Martino, they're doubting it because the way things have gone,
it's just I know, but there's so much nuance to it, and if you don't get the nuance, that's on you.
Remove emotion. If you remove the motion,
how many times we got to say before and after Allegri? What Maurizio Sarri was saying about the Juventus players, what Juve have done after Allegri, what they're currently like. Everyone is boasting about. They look impressive offensively, right? Because they're finally getting an influx of really talented players.
They're conceding four goals a game.
That did you watch the Verona match? I'm not really sure if you they played like shit. They were horrible. They did not look good for their level, regardless of what they think of the referee getting relegated. Like I don't want to hear it. Like, you're against Verona and you have all these players for all this money. Coop Miner's one of the biggest flops in Serie A.
I mean, that doesn't get said enough too, right? Like Douglas Luiz, Coop Miners, and Nico Gonzalez. 3 players. The
Charles de Ketelare transfer got more shit than the Coop Miners one. And the Coop Miners one is objectively far worse.
Yeah.
Objectively far worse than him. He's become useless. So to me, it's just funny to see how that goes. Just quickly, I guess I would go Salamakers as well for my man in the match. Just a final thought before we transition into the second half of this episode, which will be a Napoli preview with our good friend Dan Russo. So stick around for that. You'll just see a little bit of a transition here on the podcast and the video. Just real quick, because we didn't really get to them. Samuel Lecce in his start, he gets subbed off. My assumption would be because of his yellow card. I would have liked to maybe see him play with a yellow card, just like how sometimes there's players in basketball where they have 5 fouls. They're about to foul out of a game. Like, he could be sent off. You want to see how they play with that, to play with that sort of experience. How do I handle having a red card? How do I handle my positioning on the pitch? What do I do to not put myself in that situation? I thought his yellow card was really amateur. It was really silly, because even if the pass by Tomori was poor, Camarda gets the ball back. There were 2 defenders sitting deep.
Yeah.
Camarda doesn't have this breakaway elite speed either. He's stronger than a lot of guys. Like, he could fend off Ricci. But it's a clear yellow, bro. You don't do that. I just think in that situation, probably just like a little happy to just or happy feet to just win the ball back. I thought that was pretty poor. Just in that instance, the rest of the performance from him from that half was good. I have nothing bad to say. I thought he controlled the tempo, did his job, didn't really put Milan in any danger, and that's kind of all you can ask for out of a player like him in his role. So your quick thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think in that situation, it's what we would typically call pressing. Like you're trying to do a little bit too much to make a statement and to impress the coach.
Yeah.
And that pressing, not the actual.
It's gonna confuse so many.
Yeah. But I think maybe he was trying to do a little bit too much. Like, okay, let me see if I can win the ball back, turn it up pitch, and to kind of show the coach, show the fans what I can bring. And I appreciate it, but I think that's kind of where you start to see like, all right, like there is some rawness to his game, or there are some things to his game that, while very good, still need some kind of harnessing and controlling, right? And it's fine. I do like to see a player that is, willing to be aggressive to win the ball back. I think the midfield needs that, right? We're going to need players like Samuel Ricci, and we've been calling for him to get starting minutes, but I think it's difficult when you look at how Milan have played without him in the starting 11. It's difficult for people to be, well, we got to change this, we got to change this, we got to do this, we got to do that. I'm not the biggest fan of Fofana. I'm not saying he's had a great start to the season. I'm also not the biggest fan of Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I think in their own ways, they've done some good things so far in very small components. But I think, again, I'm a big proponent in, hey, if Allegri is looking at these players on a daily basis and he feels, you know what, these midfield three provide me the most balance, the most structure, I can't really argue with it, right? Yeah, so I think, as much as we keep kind of calling for Ricci to get more minutes, this player to play more, this player to do more, do yada, yada, yada. Yeah. The proof is in the pudding. If Milan are winning games and the recipe works and the recipe tastes good, why change it? Yeah. That's how I am. I think if you trust the coach and you think the coach is doing a great job, the midfield looks fantastic. So for what Fofana maybe doesn't bring, the fact is the collective group in the midfield looks very good. So
there's at the every little facet that makes a midfielder good. I think Fofana lacks as a whole, but his production in the final third is probably what's going to make up for a lot of that. We already saw it. Like, it was a nice assist to Pulisic. He got the goal against Udinese. I just think, and I've said this multiple times, I agree with you. I'm not the biggest fan. I think, and Allegri has alluded to this, 15 goals, he said he wants from Loftus-Cheek and Fofana.
That's a lofty target.
It is pretty lofty, but considering how much better they are as advanced players up the pitch, I kind of get where he's coming from. Yeah. I'm not sure Milan are going to play enough matches for them to do that. I think they're at 2 total so far, so we'll see. Again, that pretty much wraps it up there for this match. Milan, Lecce, 3-0. They face Lazio in the next round. We'll get to recording on that one. But again, stick around for the second portion of this podcast. Have a very good friend of ours and guest that has been on multiple times in Dan Russo to preview the match against Napoli this weekend. So stick around for that, guys. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the second half of this podcast. Martino, Matt, and returning for I don't know how many times you've been on, Dan, but
probably
Dan Russo of Napoli Twitter, Serie A Twitter, is back with us to preview another Milan-Napoli match. So, Dan, thank you so much for your time. Great to talk to you again, brother.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure being here, even though most of the times I come on, we end up getting our shit walloped.
I know.
I don't know if I can swear. Last time I came on, we swore a little bit.
Was the last time you were on, was it the Champions League quarterfinal?
No.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
I think it was the 4-0.
Maybe.
Yeah, during the Scudetto year. Yeah, I think it was the 4-0.
Every time I come on without fail.
I know Gio. I was already talking to our friend Gio about it, and Gio's like, you guys are gonna at least draw us this weekend. So I have no confidence because Pisa scored a couple goals.
He's always pessimistic.
I know. Bro. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, he's worse than me, and I'm pretty bad. He's I could clearly say that man is worse than me when it comes to pessimism. But either way, we're happy to have you back on and talk. It's been crazy since the last time we've seen you. You guys finished 10th, I think. One of the worst follow-ups in Serie A history for a Scudetto winner. Besides Milan a couple of years ago, but I think
we were worse. We were definitely worse.
Napoli were the worst since Torino's entire team died in a plane crash. I think so. It was that's no exaggeration. That was the other team. But you come back, you win one of the most improbable Scudettos, I think, probably of my life that I know of. that I can remember for sure. And it was incredible. Just kind of tell me how it was for you guys at the end of that. Was it more exciting than the third one? Because you're in a very unique situation with your generation of Napoli fans where like your father obviously saw everything, but you and what you had to wait for and deal with Serie C up until that first one where you guys completely dominated. But this one, I'm just always curious because the first one has to feel like the greatest, but then this one happened that felt like the most unlikely out of all of them. Because you guys have had some great teams over the past 15 years. For that one to end up being the one to win it, it had to be just insane, right?
I mean, it was definitely very weird. I didn't want to believe it up until probably the Atalanta game that we won there. I started saying, all right, you know what? Not getting ahead of myself here, but we could probably do something this year, you know? I have a weird feeling towards the first one. I don't know. I mean, everyone I talk to, all my friends, they're like, that's the greatest feeling I've ever had. You know, that one completely trumps the one that just happened last year, blah, blah, blah. I'm completely the opposite. I think, and I think it's because of how unlikely it was. You know what I mean? I mean, going into December of 2022, we already knew we were pretty much it was going to happen at some point. We were so far ahead. Sorry, not December. It was around January. We were like 10, 15 points ahead. It's like,
after the
right,
Juve match.
Happen. Yeah. This one was kind of, I mean, because of how improbable it is, because of coming off 10th place, Conte being the manager, which is my favorite manager of all time, I just think I have more of a closer relationship, if you want to call it that, with last year's. I definitely will never forget it. I mean, that goes without saying, but it's just, it's surreal. It was surreal. Like that day, even after we won it against Cagliari, I still couldn't believe that we actually did it because it was not supposed to happen. It was almost like a Leicester for me, at least.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, because that was just I think it's the way that you guys were winning games too. Mm-hmm. It's not like you were like putting together the best streak of form for like an extended period of time. You were picking up good results. The start of the season started very weird. I think you barely scraped by in Coppa Italia. And then, you know, you were just kind of hitting the ground running. You didn't have a prolific goal scorer. Lukaku just had a really solid like assist year where he was like the top assister in the league. And on paper, like it just really was one of the lesser talented teams I think I've seen win, 100%. Which kind of just like segues into this. And you lost one of your best ever players in January, and you didn't really like suffer from it in the sense of winning anything. But your Mercato this year, I know obviously it's been brought up by Conte already in a press conference, which is just like so on brand with him. But this summer with the Mercato, you had a little bit more flexibility. The Osimhen deal got over the line. You could actually use some of that Cavara money. I like some of the players that you purchased. Depth was obviously imperative for this squad. How are you feeling heading into a season in which you're playing multiple competitions now with the Champions League back in the fold and Antonio Conte kind of juggling that? He has done what he still wins leagues and does well in leagues despite the multiple competitions. It's Europe where he falters. Are you worrisome whatsoever after this Mercato?
I don't think – I think I love all the players we got. I think they all make sense. Luka probably would have been the only signing that we made that I'm kind of on the fence about still. I mean, he had a great performance yesterday, but it's against Pisa. Not that taking anything away from Pisa because we probably shouldn't have even won that game. But, you know, I have to see him do it, you know, against a Milan, for example, right? Or an Inter or a Juve. And I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen him do that, even when he was on Udinese. But in terms of the Mercato as a whole, I loved it. I mean, I love the Belkama. I love Bagna. We finally have a goalkeeper that can compete with Meret, right? I think the only place we faltered was not getting a replacement for Di Lorenzo, to be honest. I mean, he's already kind of on the washed side. He's been like that for about a year and a half now, and getting red cards. Now, who do we play against Sporting, right? So it's just, I think that was the only place where I would say it was perfect for us, but it's not because we didn't have that, right? All we have is Mazzocchi as our backup, and he wasn't even put on the Champions League roster. So whoop-de-doo. So, I mean, other than that, Højlund I thought was a great signing, even though he was horrible at Manchester United. But
who isn't? Yeah, so
right? Who isn't exactly?
A lot of other players,
right? So it's just not a clear indication of whether he's already washed at 20, whatever. What is he, 21, 22? Højlund, like he's still got so much time, and he knows the league. So yeah, I mean. I loved it. I know that Conte is gonna, say what he says in his press conferences. He's always gonna complain. He's always gonna say we can do more, we can do this, we can do that. But I think that's just a way to protect himself if the tide goes the wrong way, if results go the wrong way. But the last thing I wanted to say about it was the only worry that I have with having so many players come in, so many good players, is trying to find the exact right balance for the team. Mm-hmm. I don't think we've found that yet. I don't think McTominay, De Bruyne, all these guys can play together all at the same time. Anguissa, Lobotka. Even though it sounds amazing on paper, that's like a FIFA Ultimate Team. That's not real life,
Santangelo, any?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there was. It's difficult because you want to upgrade the team, and I think that despite having such a fantastic year, winning a Scudetto, that there are holes, there are things that you need to improve upon when it comes to the market, right? And you have to obviously reward your coach with a fantastic market and show that, hey, we're willing to invest and commit to this, because obviously the last thing you wanted was Conte to leave one and done, and now all of a sudden you're back to square one trying to find a new coach. Players maybe potentially are having doubts about staying and all the sorts of things. And I think that a lot of the players they did bring in, I actually do like I like Noah Lang. He was a player that Milan were linked to a couple summers ago, I think, when they got CDK, when he was still at Brugge, right? And then he went to PSV and he was spectacular. So kind of reaffirmed this is a really good player. And they got him for a pretty solid fee.
Yeah.
The one thing, again, I think that makes it very odd when it comes to the striker situation is the injury forced you guys to get Højlund. And that deals on an obligation, if I'm correct. I think contingent on X amount of factors. You're potentially talking about the money for him, the money for Luka, and I don't know if those guys give that sort of assurance that you need, especially when it comes to at least the Champions League. Luka still feels like, for a very good player or a young player, that step up from Udinese to being a focal point within a Scudetto contender and a Champions League ambitious side. It remains to be seen. And the same thing with Højlund, right? It's you like certain elements of their game, but ultimately you're going to be without Lukaku. And Lukaku obviously is the guy that Conte absolutely adores. And he's the guy tailor-made for the team. So I think in pieces and components, I agree with you. I do think that they did have a pretty solid market. But I think in many ways you can draw parallels between their market and what Milan did. There are pieces of Milan's market that I think you have already seen were very strong, like the midfield, like Ricci, Rabiot. Shari, we didn't even get to see it because he got injured, and Modric. That midfield is looking leaps and bounds better than what we saw last year. And they lost Tijani Reinders, who was the best midfielder in Serie A last year. So I think that it's going to take some time. I think the important thing for Napoli, like it is for Milan, was getting off to a really good start. And while things, to your point against Pisa, didn't look as sharp and didn't look like a team that is competing for a Scudetto, you look at what's around you and you have to kind of put things into perspective. Look at the struggles that Juventus have. Look at Roma. Look at Atalanta. They're in a transitional phase. Look at Inter. They've lost, 2 games already in Serie A. And you have to look at yourself and say, despite all these things, we're still at the top of the table. So I think if you're a Napoli fan, you have to kind of also think in that sense too, that you got the coach, you spend some money, you have a lot of your still core players from last year. It's not like you lost all these guys that were still from that Scudetto winning team. So I think that that's kind of how I would think about it if I was a Napoli fan.
I mean, I just, like I said, I'm just not even afraid. I can't be afraid because I trust Conte, right?
Yeah.
But I know that he's going to find that out at some point. It's just I am wary of how this team looks in October, in November.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's still kind of like we say it in Italy, calcio d'agosto. It's like it's August soccer. It's summer soccer right now. It's players are still getting fit, getting match fit. Players are still finding out finding their groove. So like, yeah, wins again, in this time of the year, even losses in this time of the year, are somehow insignificant come the end of the year. I know I don't want to maybe insignificance a little bit too harsh of a word because they're still for 3 points, right? But I've seen teams that like in 2016, that Juve team, they started off the year like 13th place or whatever it was. They were so bad, and then all of a sudden they went on like a 17-game winning streak and won the Scudetto against us. You know what I mean? So it's like the beginning of the year is kind of insignificant to how it could end up, right? So I am a little wary, but I am confident. I spoke to Martino last week about this. I was telling him the same thing. I'm very confident in our midfield. I'm very confident we're a great team. Martino keeps telling me that we're gonna win it again, but I know the way he does things.
I don't know. I have money on it.
Martino's black magic.
I have money on this. People say it's black magic. No, I think it's there's obviously a chance that they don't win it. Like this isn't like a slam dunk. I would think if there's like a clear team that the majority of people should pick this year, it's them. But to me, I think you have to see like the first moment of adversity here for Napoli is already started with the Sporting situation. Obviously because of the Di Lorenzo red card. Like how does that rotation work? I think also like Supercoppa being in December, I believe, is going to be another little bit of a challenge for Napoli as well, because I think we both play each other for the first semifinal there, and I think it's like Inter Bologna on the other side. So I think stuff like that. We've seen Buongiorno already pick up another knock. He's got like muscle fatigue. It's just I worry with Conte's training regimen on how Buongiorno can like last throughout a season. It's like that's still muscular issues. If they're repeating themselves like multiple times, I would grow worrisome a little bit with a player like that. Lukaku's lost, sure, but you guys put like a whole like plastic surgery immediately on that and gave yourself a facelift with Højlund. I think Højlund is more than good enough within this team of formation to do well. And Lukaku, it's just 3 months. Like you said, it's just the start of the season. I think if you suffer, it could be in the Champions League for sure. But Serie A, like you're saying it, like you probably shouldn't have won that game against Pisa, but you're 4 for 4.
Yeah.
Juve's defense looks like shit. I think Juve don't look that good. I think just because they beat Inter 4-3, like it was a crazy game. But you conceded 7 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
Verona should have scored multiple goals on them. We're talking about 3 matches where Juve probably could have conceded close to 10 goals. But like I'm supposed to sit here and bow down and say like, oh yeah, they're winning their Scudetto. I'm sorry. They're not good enough like that. So yeah, I think the expectations for you guys should be the Scudetto. I think Inter on paper, their 11 is still the best 11 in my opinion. But Napoli's depth, the managerial situation with Conte, like the managers across the board, our managerial situation, in my opinion, is the second best. Tudor and Kivu are really like I question them big time for it to happen. And Kivu's gonna have a lot of pressure on him. I don't think he's an awful coach, but for me to feel comfortable about a team winning something, I just don't see it. Like Conte, how could you doubt this guy? He's won at 3 separate clubs in Serie A. He's won it with Chelsea. Like league-wise, domestically, this manager is still arguably the best in the world. I know if you want to talk Pep, whatever. But like Conte is still proven to be a genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I think the expectation should be Scudetto. I mean, like, how could it not be? Like, you won it last year. Arguably, everyone around you had gotten worse on paper and managerial-wise, and you retained your manager and you added talent. So, like, I think that should mean you are the favorites. Is that what your expectation is? Like, what is it? Like multiple
100%.
Right?
100%.
Is it that or nothing?
I expect us to win the Serie A. That just because I'm not saying we're going to win it now doesn't mean I don't expect them to. But I need to see proof as well, right? I still, that Fiorentina game was great, but look where Fiorentina are in the standings.
Yeah.
Fair.
We haven't gotten tested yet. This is our first real test. It is Sunday, right? I'm
Correct. Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday. It's our first real test. We're gonna see. Last year, that was the first real test as well. That Milan match, and we ended up beating you guys.
I think our team was like terrible for that one, if I remember correctly.
Right, but Milan.
No.
San
Still,
Siro's
like
never. For me, growing up, like you go to the San Siro, that's an automatic L. You know what I mean? So like to see my team go up to the San Siro and beat a Milan or an Inter ever. Like I don't even remember the last time we beat Inter at San Siro. So
it's such a weird dynamic though, because Milan plays so well at Napoli. Like they should have at least tied in the spring.
Definitely.
If Santi didn't blow, like Milinkovic-Savic, I thought was fantastic against Napoli. City. That could have been a lot worse. Obviously, you were playing down a man. But yeah, I think just go across the board real quick, and then Sant'Angelo, you could jump in with a question. So expectations, like Supercoppa, Coppa Italia, like Scudetto, like and Champions League, obviously. What is successful for Napoli?
For me, Supercoppa, I don't even think about unless we're in the final. Then I'm like, I want to win. But I'm not even thinking about that. It should just be one game anyway. But whatever. That's for another debate. The second one, if we're talking about Scudetto, we already talked about. I expect us to be contending for it in May at the end, right? The third, the Coppa Italia, I mean, we have to do something, like semifinal at least.
Yeah.
It's been like 4 years in a row. It's been like 4 years in a row that we get knocked out the first round, or the round of 16. So it's just that we've been pathetic. We have to honor that competition a little bit more this year. And then Champions League, I don't talk about it at all. I think I just want us to get past the group phase, and then we'll see from there based on a draw. You can't really say, we need to get to the quarters, we need to get to the semis, because we could draw Real Madrid right away. Who knows? I'm never expecting us to beat them. So,
Sant'Angelo, any question before the preview?
Yeah, I was about to say, I think, and you guys went into like the sort of like his expectation, but I was going to say like, what was the expectation for the Champions League, right? Because I think that, when you look at a team that just won a Scudetto, you have won multiple in a span of a couple of years, like the natural next step is like, all right, like we know what we're for real. We're here to stay. We can do this on at least every other year, every couple of years, win the league title. The next natural aim should be, okay, let's see what we can do in the Champions League. That's what it was, at least as a Milan fan, when we won the Scudetto a couple of years ago. I was like, all right, like, let's make a push in the Champions League. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but like, we got to a semifinal. We got smacked by Inter, but at least we were there. Like, we were on that stage. So I think that's kind of where I want to see, at least if I'm just speaking purely on like the entire situation with Napoli, is like, I want to see a team under Antonio Conte build off what they did. I don't want it to be them fizzle out and like he leaves and it's a whole thing where he still can't do it on the Champions League stage. Like, I want to see a guy like Antonio Conte show the world that like, I'm not just someone who can dominate domestically. I can actually do it on the Champions League level, because that sort of reputation predates him back to his Juventus years, right? The games against Galatasaray where they were fantastic, but like all of a sudden they're bowing out in dramatic fashion in the Champions League, and it's like we all know what comes with that, right? When it comes to the revenue. So I agree. I think that's a pretty fair expectation, right? And that's getting out of the group. If you get a favorable draw similar to what Inter had last year, who knows? You're gonna have to beat some good teams, but like that's the measuring stick, right? You can't be complacent and be timid and be like, we don't want to play Real Madrid. Like, if you're not looking to play Real Madrid in the Champions League at the Bernabeu, like, what are you playing for? Like, if you're not looking to play City away or Arsenal, like PSG, like these teams on the brightest stages, you have to show that like you are a big team, you belong, and you want to compete at that level. That's how I believe teams like Napoli, teams like Milan, Inter, Juventus, that should be what they strive for. But I think on the Copa side, I think what's interesting too, I think that I might be in the minority here, but I think what me and Martino were always in agreement on, especially last year, was we have to start kind of having a little bit more care in what we do in these cup play competitions. Like, I get it. Like, you want to prioritize Champions League and Serie A, and I get all that. But I think at some point, like, you look at the mark of really good teams historically, even in recent years, trophy's there. I want it. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to put it ahead of a big Serie A fixture or a big Champions League fixture away. But if you guys are getting into a position where you're come May competing for a domestic double and you're making a pretty decent run in the Champions League, that kind of like has a different look and perspective on what the entire season was. Because look what happened with Inter. Treble, they're going to win the treble. They got embarrassed by Milan in the Coppa Italia. They got destroyed in the Champions League final. They didn't win anything. And it kind of frames the entire season as this was a colossal failure. And 4 weeks ago, we were talking about treble hopes. What do you think of that?
No, I mean, like you said, but you have to find yourself there come April with all your eggs in one, your eggs in multiple baskets, I should say. You can't have that mindset now. You have to have the mindset of we have to respect every competition as of now. You know what I mean? Yeah. We can't say, oh, we're going to win everything. That was their problem last year, Inter.
Yeah.
They were like, you have Mkhitaryan going to the mic on a microphone saying, we're unplayable when we play well or whatever the hell that means. I don't know what the heck that even means. And then you have Inzaghi saying we're going for all three of the competitions. Why, of course, when it was bound to fail at some point. They had no depth.
Old, slow,
right? Old, right? Exactly. So I don't think we can't be like you said. I think every player wants to win a Champions League. I think every player on Napoli right now wants to win all 4 trophies this year. Otherwise, why are you a pro? Why are you?
Why are you playing? And you look at the other teams that. Like, do you think, like, granted, City we're talking about different wage bills, we're talking different money, but like, do you think Pep is going into these competitions and thinking, I don't want this cup, I don't want this cup.
Never.
Like, of course, like that. When you look back at this phase of Napoli's history, right, in 10, 20, 30 years, you want to be able to put something to it and say, we won 2 Scudetto, we won multiple cups. That's how you define a legacy or a potential, like, dynasty or one of your best eras in club history is when you look at the trophies. Because, I mean, you know better than anybody here, Napoli had some great teams in the middle of the 2010s, played fantastic football, getting praise
probably
up and down Europe. They didn't win anything, and it gets looked at through a different lens. Yeah. If you're looking at this Napoli in a couple of years' time, you could say, hey, they went from dominating Serie A, went back to 10th, but then they got a new coach, won again. They made deep runs in the Champions League. They won multiple domestic cups. Yeah. You're going to be feeling a little bit different about the overall recent history of Napoli and saying, okay, like we dominated a 5 to 10 year span, and no one can erase that. That's how I feel when I look at like Milan's history. When you look at it, the multiple Champions League competition appearances, the trophies, like that's how you define history. And I think for people to kind of look at it as like, well, this tournament doesn't mean as much. I don't really care about that one. I don't believe that. I don't buy that. I think you're spot on. Like, you're professionals. Like, you're there to win trophies. Otherwise, why are you here?
Matt, you were talking about legacy. I mean, growing up, I remember I just saw Milan shirts everywhere. Every time I would go to a park, go play soccer, something, Kaká jerseys, Nesta, Maldini, right? It's crazy to me because I don't know this. I've never known this, but now I'm seeing kids with like Napoli jerseys on.
Yeah.
When I go and play in like an indoor league or something, I see kids with Napoli jerseys. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is not something I know.
It's
cool.
What I mean? It makes you feel good about like
amazing. It makes me so proud. Like, wow, another person knows my team.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, like you said, I hope that this could be a legacy-defining decade for us. And we're not just known as
it already
that Maradona had.
It already is.
I get that, but it's just 2 Scudetti. You know what I mean? You need that extra thing, that like cherry on top.
Just 2. You double.
Just 2. I'm not saying just 2 like it means nothing, but. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys have that year, that like 2003 to 2007.
Dan, put it this way: you
nuts.
win this year, you have seen as many as I have. Realistic, like I was 3 when they won in 1998. I was not watching. I'm not full of shit. They won it 03, 04, 2010, 2011. and then just the other year. Like we're not the
Yeah, but
standards are falling off.
you guys saw 3 UCL finals. You guys saw 2 UCLs. It's
No, I
crazy.
know that the European stuff makes up for a lot of it, but the domestic failures of Milan, there isn't a bigger club in the world that has had a worse domestic stretch in terms of like success. I think.
Definitely,
I know. Like
I would agree with
Manchester
that.
United in the 2000s is like insane, and then
Mhm.
obviously they haven't won in forever. But like, it's just different. But like we'll talk about this weekend then, because truthfully, the more I see these games play out, and Inter could always creep back into this. I think these two teams, just because Milan play once a week, are the two that I think can really push towards this title. I don't go to it, bro. Like it's late September. I'm not gonna be like whatever the result is for this is what's gonna happen the rest of the season. There still has yet we're not gonna see a fully fit Leao in this one. If he starts, he's not playing 90 minutes. I bet he comes off of the bench for this. They're gonna evaluate him on Thursday or Friday. So he's not obviously fully fit for this. Lukaku's not playing clearly. Buongiorno looks like he's not going to. I don't see why Napoli would play him if you have Sporting as well coming around the corner next week. But then again, Conte is insane if he thinks a player is like good to go. But muscle fatigue to me sounds like he's not going to play this weekend. Di Lorenzo's in poor form. I think obviously you're worrisome because of the 2 goals conceded against Pisa. Napoli played great at San Siro recently. It's a reverse fixtures. Milan played great at Napoli. Napoli played great in Milan. I think that where Napoli's experience is at this moment, this entire fixture, this game is based on the midfield. If Modric and these other players, like it depends on who Allegri starts. If it's like Fofana and RLC, and there's probably going to be Rabiot, Modric, and one of RLC or Fofana. That's the entire game, in my opinion. I think that if Napoli are able to win the midfield battle, I think they win this game. We haven't truly seen a massive test for Milan where they've played this great offensive side, or they face a team with such great offensive talent and a midfield that is up to par with them. I think Napoli, Milan, and Inter have the best midfields in the league. And if Napoli's midfield is able to control Milan, like you look at the back there, it's Gabbia, it's Pavlovic, it's Tomori. That scares me. And then Magnan, he's a mixed bag a lot of the time these days. Outside of his first season, he's either great or he's shit, to be honest with you. There's some shots that are shot at him, and I'm just like, how are you not even going to hand to that? How are you not? He's not making these great miraculous saves. I think Napoli have the advantage with Milinkovic-Savic. I think he's better right now, better form. I think it's all the midfield, truly. If Modric plays to the level that he's been at, Milan have a great chance to pick up a result here. And I think even if it's at home, Milan getting a draw is great. It's great for them. I think that boosts a lot of their confidence moving forward. For Napoli, I'm not too sure how you would feel about a loss in this. I don't think it's the end of the world because Milan are respectable, still Allegri side. There's plenty of talent on the team. I don't think a loss is devastating for Napoli. I think a loss is a bigger deal for Milan, if that kind of makes sense to me. I think it could take the wind out of their sails a little bit after a really great start, because outside of the Cremonese match, they haven't conceded a goal. They keep on pretty much dominating. They had like 4.5 XG today against Lecce. It was shit. Like that team doesn't do that. Like Milan don't dominate their opponents in recent years. That are like the lesser shit sides. They step up randomly in big games, but for me, I like to believe in a Scudetto. They have to beat Napoli and they have to get a result against Juventus or reverse. I think you need 2 results in these games. I'm not sure where like the pressure lies in this draw, guys. Like I don't know who feels like they have a lot more to prove. To me, it's probably on Milan. Yeah. Because Napoli, it's like we have quick turnaround. We have Sporting Champions League. We already won it last year. We're 4-4 to start. Like
I think it's Milan.
I just don't. I know I ramble a little bit, but like it's to me, this is a lot about Milan and where they stand after what last season was like. And with the leaders that they have on the field right now, I'm not as worried. But like if Anguissa, Lobotka, McTominay, and if KDB starts, I'm not sure what they're gonna do with him. He should be good to go. How many minutes did he put? Did he even play against
He
Pisa?
played the whole game.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure he played the whole game. I mean,
okay.
that's
6 days
comfort.
of
That's
6 days of
comfort.
rest. I mean, I know it's down to the midfield for me, guys. If Napoli like play even with them, it's I worry about Højlund running in behind the defense. Luka's a very difficult target man to deal with if it's offset pieces. I could see this one going either way. They played incredibly tight in the spring, but for whatever reason, Milan kind of like play up to Napoli in certain occasions. It's just weird. Like I was convinced we would have lost every single time we played Napoli that year. They dominated, and it was just the opposite. I don't think anyone played Napoli better than Milan did. They do this shit where they're playing well against teams that you feel like they shouldn't, like Inter last year. So I'm very curious because this is the ultimate like if people buy into Milan or not right now. So
yeah, I think Milan needed a result here more than Napoli do for the simple fact that I think they need a really good performance here with a result to validate and legitimize the sort of hype that they're getting so early on in the season. Because I think aside from the opening round disaster against Cremonese, everyone's talking about Modric. Everyone's talking, oh god, Pulisic, like getting Rafa back, Allegri. Look how much Allegri has been able to transform this Milan in a couple match days. I think in many ways, coming up against Napoli at this point of the season is similar to the first season post Maldini and Redbird, in that Milan started that season very well. If people forget that they played Bologna, they played Torino, they got some really good results to start the season. Everyone was like, oh, well, okay, new direction. Like Redbird maybe isn't so bad. Maybe they didn't need Maldini. Maybe.
yeah.
And then they came up against Inter early on in that season, if I'm correct. And Inter absolutely smoked us and things went south.
It was like 5-0. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what really, it's important for Milan to come out in this game, because we've seen over a full season what an Antonio Conte-led Napoli can produce. And they've only added players in the market. While I like what Allegri has done, and I like that you're immediately seeing the impact that he's had, they need a good result against a very good team to validate what they've done early on in the season as not being something more than, you just played inferior opposition and you dominated the teams that you're supposed to dominate. If they come up against Napoli and it's a 1-1 game and Milan are the better team, but maybe they don't take the chances in front, maybe Santi still struggles, or maybe they struggle to convert the chances in goal because they've been creating a ton, but they are the team on the day that outplays Napoli, people are going to be looking at this Milan team and saying, okay, like they dominated that game and they're not even getting top end production from their forward line. So that's how I see this game. I agree with Martino in the sense that, I think the game is going to be won in the midfield, and it sounds cliche because that's typically, I feel like, what a lot of people say, where it's like the midfield battle, like it's always going to come down to that. But I truly do think that the midfield that's been so transformed under Allegri from last year, that they've been able to control a lot of these games through the midfield, through a guy like Luka Modric. And I think he's been that influential. And in many ways, I look at what Napoli have in McTominay and a guy like Kevin De Bruyne, where it's like you look at it like a single player and you're like, this guy can transform a lot of what we do and do it, in such a way where it's like, whoa, like we play a much different level of football here. That's how I feel this game is from a Milan perspective. I don't necessarily think Napoli need to come out here and all of a sudden bludgeon Milan. If they play a solid game, I think Napoli are understanding of the fact that, okay, like this is a better Milan team. I think last year was an outlier. This is a team that's well coached. They got much better players this year. They're more balanced. If Napoli come out and play pretty good football after having the performance against Pisa, I think Napoli fans will be pleased with that as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you guys. Like you said, the cliche I was going to say it before Martino brought it up, but yeah, it's a midfield battle type of game. I mean, if we can somehow get by and play Højlund into space, it's going to be rough for Milan with their defense. that's what I've been looking at. That's the way I've been looking at it in the lead up to this match. If we can get to Pavlovic, if we can get Gabbia isolated, one-on-one with our guys up there, it's going to be hard for them. But if we can't, it's going to be very hard for us to try to deal with Leao. That dude freaking scares the light out of me. So
that's if he plays. I think it'll be an off the bench. I think, again, if it's KG and we're around like 65, 70th minute and you see that guy come up on the side touchline.
That's my fear. Whether I think start or that, either way.
I think that's the direction you're kind of heading in. And if Milan get off to a good start in this one and they're creating their chances and they're still struggling like they did even today, they should have won 7-0. That pressure sort of mounts, and that makes Napoli feel better because Santi Jimenez is not good for him. I am inclined to think Santi doesn't start this weekend. I think it's going to be Nkunku and Pulisic playing off of each other. And then it'll be Rabiot, Stupinian, Salamakers, Modric, and whoever he picks out of RLC and Fofana with the consistent back three that they've had. I think that's ultimately what you're going to see. I don't think you start Santi Jimenez in this match. I think if Milan starts Santi, I think that favors Napoli greatly. I think you rather face the guy who's struggling between the years as a striker. And that would bode well for Napoli. And again, set pieces, I think Napoli have the advantage with that as well. I'm just very, very ready to see this clash of De Bruyne and Modric. Just because. It's like post-peak Serie A, if that makes sense.
We're gonna see.
And we got these two old geezers.
It's a battle of the unks.
These two,
I was just
these
about to
two
say
legends.
the
Yeah. So I guess we'll just go into predictions. We'll go Dan, Santangelo, and then myself. So Dan, go ahead. Or if there's any other final points that you guys want to do, but we've been chatting for a bit.
I'm good. I can go for my prediction.
I know.
Santangelo's good.
Yeah. Go for
2-0
it.
Milan.
Such a piece of shit.
You want to go goal scorer for Milan? Do you have any predictions on goal scorer?
He's gonna pick Leao for the second goal, probably.
We pick Leao
goal scorers.
Yeah.
I don't think Leao usually. I mean, why not? We'll give him one. We'll give him a late 75th minute. We'll give him a late.
Very precise.
The first goal will be from a Gabbia corner. From a corner.
Matt,
I'm gonna go 1-1. I think that's the cop out safe prediction, but I think I don't see how Milan are going to be able to handle Napoli for 90 minutes and not concede. I think they haven't really been tested in these past 3 clean sheets that they've had. Granted, like it's still good that Milan are getting clean sheets, but it's different opposition. I think Luca is a big threat in the air, and we've seen that Milan struggles, at least on set pieces, corners. You get all it takes is for Napoli to get one chance with a corner, and I truly think that they could have the really good potential to score. That's how I think dangerous they can be with their big center backs and also a guy like Luca. But I also think Milan struggle in that aerial department, where I think they'll face some trouble there. So I think that's 1-1 would be a good result for both sides. I wouldn't even complain about that.
Well, you stole mine, then I'll just go 2-2. I think Milan have a penalty saved by Milinkovic-Savic to prevent.
That would require them to actually get a penalty, dude.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here on a podcast with Napoli fans to say we don't get calls, but I'll say one thing. Juventini need to shut the fuck up about officiating not going in the direction because I'm sick of it. Honestly.
What about that BS about they don't have enough rest after not beating Verona? Like, bro.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. And first of all, Napoli played on a Thursday, so I don't know what they expect for the game to be on Monday. And then Juventus have the most resources in all of Italy and spend the most money on average, besides Inter, and reinvest in the team when they are in their worst financial position in quite some time. And they're complaining about not rotating when they have arguably the best striker depth in the league, arguably, and it's just
Penda, David, and what's his name,
Vlahovic,
Dusan, yeah,
and then Yildiz and Zagrova. But again, we're supposed to believe that Juve have the best youth, best this, best that. But then when it comes to them playing multiple matches, they're like, oh, it's too much. I mean, this is why we're going on year 30 of no UCL. So whatever. They could get fucked. So Russo, Dan, love you. I appreciate
Love
you
you
coming
guys,
on again.
Always a pleasure.
We are very sorry in advance if you guys don't get the win, because I know like the first thing you're gonna do is like complain that you came on again. But it's always a great conversation.
Don't worry about it. We'll talk after the game. We'll talk after the game.
Well, here's the thing. So Martino sometimes will like to throw like a betting nugget out there, right? So if you always come on the podcast and you say Milan wins and Milan always wins against Napoli, you could always hedge, bet Milan to win. And if they win, you win some money and you like, oh, I expected this. Or they lose, okay, fine, Napoli won.
Right.
Yeah,
it's kind of a win-win in a sense.
Yeah. Or in this case, football, they can draw too. So I guess that is not a bad result either.
I think the funniest would be 0-0 draw. But yeah, we appreciate you, Dan. Again, guys, everybody, you can go follow him at Daniel_Russo22. You might not understand half of his tweets or what he's talking about, but I genuinely advise you to go follow him, even just for Napoli interest to begin with. It's always great insight. Santangelo, you could always go follow him everywhere. We appreciate everybody supporting us. Apple, Spotify podcasts, go ahead and check out all the podcasts that we've had. Any other final things you guys want to say before we just end this?
Just want to thank Mr. Russo over here for hopping on and
Mr.
joining us.
Russo.
And for all the Mr. Russo. I sound like, what is that? Is that what your players call you?
45? What?
Mr. Russo. I didn't call you Senor Russo. No, but I appreciate you coming on, bro. It's always a pleasure.
He's older than Chiesa.
We go way back, man. We go way back to like what, 2015, 2016.
Bro, we go back to IFD.
We go back, man. So it's
right. What was it? Yeah, Italian Football Daily.
Yep. 2015, 2016, bro.
That was a fast-growing site, yeah. And then
so it's
our good friend Gio, who's still at CBS Paramount.
He was there for a little bit too. He did a couple articles.
Gio,
he did.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
right.
It's a pleasure to always have you on, man. Always respectful. Like we're big believers in like nice, clean conversations. Like, there's a lot of like crappy fans out there, and there's people that we don't even want to converse with. But like when we have like a rival Inter fan come on, or like Napoli or Juventus, whatever, we're gonna get, I think, Lex in the next episode or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, alert for those listening. It's great when we have different fans come on, and like it's just a good conversation. We're not always here to just talk to Milan fans only. So thanks for joining us, and to everyone else, thanks for the support.
All right, take care, guys. Bye.